All right, late but back. Welcome to Made Up of Wires. We've been decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and we're going to continue to do so today. If you want to know more about the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, go to soten.z.dev. You'll find a link to GitHub, a link to Discord. GitHub has all the code that's been decompiled so far, and Discord is where we chat about how to go faster, problems we're having with certain functions, the meaning of life, things like that, all the common decompilation stuff. We have been working on the outer wall lately. I mentioned yesterday that I had a bunch of code that I had decompiled but not sent up for PR. When I decompile code on the stream, it takes me not quite as much time. I'd say maybe 20 to 50% of the time I spend decompiling on the stream. I then have to go back and clean things up and get them ready for PR. What I'm mostly wanting to do here, and I think the most valuable thing, is going through the process of decompilation, working through some of the problems that come up from time to time, learning about the game along with everybody watching at home, and meeting lots of people along the way who have interest in Soten or an interest in decompilation. If there is an interest in watching me clean up some code to get it ready for pull request, I can do that as well. I just think that's less interesting, and that's more things that you would do kind of day to day if you were a programmer at any company. Whereas decompiling classic games is not something that you necessarily get to do every day, and so that's what I want to show. So we've been working on the outer wall. I'm going to go to my terminal, and I'm going to find a new function. We had started working on one of the functions related to the elevator activated text. However, there's some things in there that I think I want to sit down and think about a little bit more before continuing on. So I'm not going to continue on that one. I'm going to move on for now. I have a N01 branch. Let me rebase that. And let's look for, let's see, what do I want to do? I'm gonna do a clean build first, and then see what is remaining in the non-matching folder. So I can go through and just grep for include ASM entries, but extracting, building, and then using find is a little quicker and requires me to do a little less processing. All right, so we have a clean build. I like to use find. My preference really is to leverage Unix tools wherever possible. I know a lot of people like to use Visual Studio Code or other things like that. But for me, the old Unix tools are what I'm familiar with and what I'm comfortable using. I do have something that's chewing up resources on this computer. I don't know what those things might be, but we'll, I don't think it'll bother us. So I'm going to look for .s files, and what I've been doing in the past is sorting them by size, and then kind of choosing something in the middle. We could look at some of the smaller ones as well. But usually those are really simple. Why don't we just get rid of a few of those real quickly? So sometimes these are as simple as empty functions. Sometimes they are just returning a constant. In this case, this looks like data. It would be no ops. So I don't think this is actually a function. I don't know why it's showing up in non-matchings. So here's a really, really simple one. And we can, looking at the assembly, we can get an idea right away what this might be doing. So we're calling a function getDistance to player y. Either the argument passed into this function, if there is one, is being passed along to getDistance to player y, or getDistance to player y takes no arguments. I'm not sure. Those would be in the A0 if they were there. A0 is being reused down here, so it's possibly not anything. We're checking whether or not the distance to the y distance to the player is less than 40 pixels, sorry, 64 pixels, less than or equal to 64 pixels. And if not, we're going to go down to the bottom, load something from the stack, and return. This may just be setting back up the stack pointer. Yeah, I don't think this is actually doing anything other than that. Just loading the return address and returning. Otherwise, we're going to set the step to 3. So we can get an idea of what that function would look like without M2C or anything like that. So if I was going to not have tools that got us partially there, I'd probably assume this function looks like this. getDistance to player y less than 64. Set step 3. And that's it. I think that would be the function. So let's go to decomp.me and see how close that is. I could be brave and just attempt to compile this right in, and maybe that would be fun. That might be fun to do. So let's do that. Let's find where this function is being included. So all of these are being included as inline assembly until we decompile them into C. So this is a spear guard. I learned something interesting earlier today about MetroWorks, which may or may not help in the future. This was E4. So we have an undefined reference to get player y, and that's because y should be capitalized. And we failed, and so we can see what might have caused the failure. We're in N01. We do have one. It looks like one byte that's different from what I'm compiling versus what is being compiled here. And let's look at that constant again. Maybe I read that constant wrong. Let's try this. Still wrong. Okay. So let's look at, yeah, it is a 65. We could try that. Usually when it's an odd number like that, it's changing the Boolean operator. And there could be something else that I'm missing too. So let's go to decomp.me, see where I screwed up, and that's something we can learn from in the future. This should be a relatively straightforward function, and it's even possible that, oh, I had the wrong sign. So the check is greater than, and it might be greater than or equal to. We'll try both. No, it's just greater than. So close, just had the sign wrong. But obviously this is a very simple function. But it is possible to do this without M2C, Ghidra, IDA Pro, any of those things. There's really, I think there's 24 instructions that are used throughout SOTN, and possibly everything within that class of GCC compiled PlayStation 1 games. So you don't need to know much about assembly necessarily to get a sense for what a function may be doing and how to solve it. And just like that, we got something done without decomp.me. That's kind of fun. All right, so let's find something new to work on. We had looked at some of the skeleton ape functions, and so here's a relatively small one within the skeleton ape entity. We had worked on the barrel. Let's look at that file and see. What else is in there? That one has, I think it was Josh Schrader, who went in and commented all that to tell us what all those things were, which is super helpful. Yeah, it looks like Josh. So definitely appreciate when we have a nice foundation to start on. So we have this barrel helper function. And that's called, once we know the signature for that function, which is nice. So let's, I think that was the one that showed up at the bottom there. This is 008. Yeah. So that's a nice small one. I keep checking outside. Our internet over the last 12 hours or so has been better. I wouldn't say great, but better. And I keep hoping that Santa Cox is going to come and leave a fiber bundle outside of my house. But it hasn't happened yet. And this is actually relatively small. This maybe could have been another one we could do. without decomp.me. Let's see. Let's try it. So this is going to be a little trickier, but not terribly tricky. So we have two arguments. Arguments are going to come in A0 and A1. We're loading a field at offset 6. Oh, let me switch over. We're loading a field at offset 6 of our argument in the second position. And then we're subtracting 1C, which is what, 28 from that value. Offset 6, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that is either X or Y. We'll look at the entity structure. Since we know what the types are, yeah, I just couldn't remember if there was another field before the position. But X and Y are what we call fixed 32. There's two different types of fixed point numbers that are used throughout SOTN. One is the PlayStation native format that has 12 bits reserved for its fractional component, and 23 bits for the whole number component, and then a sign. The SOTN fixed point numbers are 16 bits for the fractional portion and 16 bits for the whole number portion, with one of the top bits being a sign bit. So when we are grabbing the value at offset 6, we're grabbing that whole number portion. So let's find this function. So I'll call these E0 and E1. We're taking the value from E1 and storing it into the value for E0, our first entity. Then we are, with an offset of 28. Then we're loading E1's position X. And so I guess let me attribute these to each of the functions. This is loading E1 position Y I high. There's a no-op here that may have to do with how long it takes to read from memory. There are certain instructions in MIPS that aren't guaranteed to have the register values settled. And so you need a no-op or some operation that's going to operate on different registers in between. But the first thing that we're going to do is operate on that V0 register. So we need the value there. One of the things that there's a lot of choices. So compiler writers, they get to choose what they're going to do there. They could put a no-op. They could have loaded this 1C in a different register in the meantime. Loading an immediate value into a register, I think, is a single cycle operation. And then this is the store back to E0's position Y. Then we're loading position X, and we're also loading a second value. And these loads then are amortized because both of them are loading at the same time and the value isn't available till 2 instructions later. We can do those loads. These actually could have been pushed up, and the load's been done earlier. I'm not sure why they do the no-op there instead of doing the reads. It may have something to do with the store and just memory safety. Not quite sure. So let's look at what offset 14 is. Offset 14 is facing left. So we're depending on if we're facing left or right, we're going to use one entity's position X or the other. Is that how I'm reading that? So in one case, we're going to use A1's or E1's position X. If we're not facing left, then we're going to use A0's facing left. This branch gets executed regardless. Sorry, this store gets executed regardless. Okay, so the store is this. This is actually an optimization as well. Hey, Entropy Gravity Well, thank you for the subscription. It looks like we're trying to reconnect. We'll see if that's going to happen. So if we're facing left, then we're going to so if we're equal to 0, we're going down to 34, which is going to add 10. Otherwise, we're going to subtract 10. And I could write that in the right way. This one, I'm not. And then we're going to return. Nothing else to do there. This one I'm less confident about, but let's compile it and see. I'm going to do a jump cut here. Stand by. right, looks like things are back. Sorry to everybody in chat. I didn't change anything. The jump cut definitely was not because I was offline secretly cribbing some notes. Yes, this is a Yoo-hoo. And it's still fantastic. All right, so let's see how I did. Failed. That's okay. And let's see what the diff is. Okay, very similar. So there, it looks like there are 2 bytes here and 2 bytes here. It looks like maybe I have my subtraction in the wrong place. So let's try flipping those and see if that's what I got wrong. Yep, that was it. So this one's a little more complicated than the first one, but still completely possible to do without using external tooling. Definitely apologies to everyone streaming on Twitch. Maybe I'll take an early day and come back when the internet is better. Let's find the next one. Thank you to the one viewer who stuck around. Appreciate you. I would like to... there we go. Users in chat. Hey, Dig Down Deep. Hey, Eldritch, Mr. Mitty. Appreciate you all showing up and dealing with my internet woes. What is going to be next? Let's stay with the skeleton ape and let's get something that... hey, Nate the Great. Good to have you back. Entropy Gravity Well, if you're still on, I want to say thank you very much for the Prime sub. Much appreciated. All right, so this is another relatively simple function. It's a little longer than I'd want to do by hand. So we will take this one to decomp.me. There's some backroom chat about decomp.me in the Soten Discord, and yeah, let me go back to that one. Thank you, Dig Down Deep. I did get that one. There was one issue. So I think about the time that the stream dropped, I had these backwards, and so build fail. And the way that I resolved that was this diff stage utility is just a shell script that I wrote. Oops, that back. And so I looked at the. Unfortunately, I don't have inline highlighting for the diffs. But I looked at these 2 bytes and these 2 bytes. The OA was suspiciously the hex value in the assembly. And so I use that as a hint to switch the order of those. And that matched then. So, and what I was saying earlier is for the simple functions like that, even for the longer functions, you could probably do a lot of this without decomp.me. Decomp.me is just, or M2C or Ghidra or whatever, IDA Pro, whatever tool you want to use. It's just too convenient to not use those things. All right, so let's get into this one. There's a little bit of funkiness going on. This one would be a great one to grab the PSP version and do, because we're looking at the entity before the argument, which is what this negative offset implies. And when that happens, GCC takes advantage of that and calculates all kinds of wacky offsets that are, in my opinion, no fun to work through. We can get most of this without dealing with those. I don't think there's anything else really. When we have a reference to a global and then adding some value and go look at that value, and that value is being multiplied by some constant, that tells you what the size, so this is a pointer to some array, and what the size of the elements in that array is. So in this case, we have an array of 32-bit values. Being that they're X and Y values, those are most likely just integers and not some other type of structure. So FC, FE, and 310 all look like they are pointers to signed 32-bit arrays. Hey, YouTube. It's just you and me. We could say all kinds of things about those Twitch viewers. But honestly, why would we? They show up every day and they chat. And that's super fun. And you might want to show up and chat. Ask any questions that you have about how the Soten Decomp project's going. Ask about MIPS disassembly. Or maybe just share your favorite Soten memory. Let's see if we're coming back on. Oh, I get got a funny funny comment from Dig Down Deep that I can't read because something is broken. Something is broken on the internet? Let me try refreshing. Can I refresh this? Yes. Dig Down Deep with the Prost. Nate the Great. Good to know. All right, so the next thing is we have this var1. var1 looks like we have to figure out what this offset is. So it is, our entities are 87, 88, no, B8 bytes, sorry. And I don't like to remember things, or can't remember things anymore, because I'm middle-aged person with all the middle-aged problems. I bought reading glasses. BC. That's what it is. Of course it was BC. So if we're using negative offsets, we start with BC and then subtract the offset. So in this case, hex 66, which gets us to offset 66, which is the animation current frame. So we're looking at not the entity that was passed in, but the entity prior to that. So I'll create a new entity variable and call it previous. Previous is going to equal arg0 minus 1. And then this temp v1 can be previous animation current frame minus 9. There's some other funniness going on in here. I'm not going to deal with that now. I'm going to go through and figure out all of these others. But we get some hints here. And instead of looking each one of these up, I'm going to go with the obvious choice of that same value, or that same field, but in the previous entity. And hopefully that sorts out fine. And we have one more of these that is also a 32-bit value. Looking at these probably aren't. Now, this is probably actually a 4-byte structure. Looking at how these are laid out, I'm going to treat them as arrays for right now. Actually, no, these are in two very different places. I'm going to treat them as an array, but it looks like, I guess they're two 32-bit values. They're X and Y values, so a point. GCC then calculates the offsets of that, and that's fine. I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. And then we have some ordering issues, and I think this would probably be the hardest thing to deal with if I wasn't using something like decomp.me. This unknown 96, we had an unknown 96. Thought. No. So let me do that one. That's offset 26, which is the entity ID. And that makes sense. Entity ID 53, I believe, is the barrel. Or related to the barrel, at least. So this should get this to compile finally. And 71 isn't bad, not great, but not the worst. So the first issue is this is being loaded as a signed instead of an unsigned value. I'm going to call temp v1 animation current frame. And I'm pretty sure I can just use that here. may need to be a (16-bit) value. RV1, I'm going to call that I. Let's do this. Animation current frame is usually assigned 16. I think I can just use that directly. We'll see if there needs to be a separate value. Okay, there we go. So it's treating as an unsigned 16. That's a little strange, but not the end of the world. This height assignment is likely happening sooner. Too soon. Too soon. Position X and Y. Those are happening. It looks like probably first. Nope. Well, they're happening in some order. So there's some shenanigans related to when this this offset 47 is being stored. Which one is offset 47? What's our line 30? Let me compile this again. It's odd that that store is being attributed to line 30. There is this is happening in the delay slot. The delay slot is the instruction immediately after a branch or jump instruction that gets executed regardless of the instruction before it. So let's see what value is being stored here. A2, which is our 312. So it's this hitbox height. Why is that being stored there? I don't know. So these are definitely getting stored later. So what I'm missing now is the offset BA and offset B6. Those stores are in the wrong place. Closer. Offset A8. It's facing left, so it looks like those might be happening in between. Is that going to be it? Nope. All right, so we're just one of these lines away in terms of ordering here. Is this going to be it? Come on, compile. Oh, and now we're offline. I need my modem. On the off chance that my internet connection is being caused by my poor internet connection is not a ISP problem and is my own problem. I did buy a new cable modem as a stopgap, and when I went to activate it or switch over, my ISP, oh, there we go, and that was correct. My ISP decided that they are not going to allow me to self-serve activate cable modems anymore because they want to move everybody to fiber, but they won't come install fiber. So this is where I am. I finally am connected again, and we have a match. There's a bunch of these variables now that we can get rid of. I am going to rename arg0 to self to stick with that convention. The only thing I'm not quite sure about is why this cast is necessary. I'm going to try to get rid of it and see if, because our local variable is unsigned, maybe this will get loaded as unsigned, and it does, yeah. Sometimes it's not clear whether that something like that is going to happen. Get the when I get a big mouse, do you get a big mouse? It came out differently than I managed it in my head. Yeah, you do. You see it too. All right, so we have another match. What I want to do here, though, is I don't like that these are separate arrays that are overlapping. I'm pretty sure that this is a 0.32. So I'm going to check the context. I believe that's the data type is 0.32, yeah. And I'm going to change this to a 0.32. And I'm going to change this to a 0.32 and get rid of these other declarations. And, oh, no. Wrong, these are 0.16s. And I'll give you a hint as to why I think that in a second. And then here, these are going to be .x and .y, but we're only going to be looking at the first of the two. And I'd expect this to have intermediate differences here. And if you look at what the intermediate differences are for these constants, it's this field plus offset 2, or this global symbol, this other global symbol plus offset 2. So those are, those get baked in by GCC to the final value. If we looked at MetroWorks, we'd see something different. We'd see the load of a pointer to that structure, and then we'd see loads at offsets inside that structure. The first one might not be. It might just load it directly. I'm not quite sure. If we are loading bigger structures where we're accessing a lot of things, then GCC will pull that out into a pointer in a register. But in this case, it just bakes the addresses right in. So I think that looks good. Actually, one more thing. This is going to be a unsigned 16 pointer. I'm sorry, an array of unsigned 16s. And I'm going to take this back. And we can integrate this. So this function was F18. One thing I didn't do, and I should always do this before, should be part of my pre-decompile checklist. I should see if anybody has worked on this, and nobody has, so that's good. We didn't redo work that wasn't necessary. The only reason I'm concerned about that is, one, I don't want to take work that anybody has done or take credit for work that somebody else has already done. I want to make sure that everybody gets the whatever they are wanting to get out of the project, But then I also, there's so limited resources for decompilation, and especially within this project, we have, I think I mentioned earlier, there's been, I think, 34 contributors, code contributors to this project. And making sure that those resources then are utilized as much as possible, I think, is valuable. We could take 10 years to decompile Symphony of the Night, but obviously, if we can get it done faster, then other people can do the things that they came to decompile Symphony of the Night for in the first place. Whether that's learning about the game, or ROM hacking, or porting, or whatever. All right, so we have a clean build. One thing I mentioned the other day, and I think it's it'll be a fun experiment. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it perfectly, but we'll see. What I wanted to do was change the elevator activated switch function in a way that shows that it is what we think it is. So let's do that. I don't know how this is going to go. This may work out exactly as I intended to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the method that changes the elevator activated text color, which I I now see that I spelled incorrectly and should update my branch. Yeah, when is the next appointment? Yeah, so what happened on Monday, the tech came out and saw that there was no fiber bundle outside the house. He tried to run the from our our blocks box, he tried to run a fish line. We have conduit that runs all the way underground, which is nice, but he didn't have a fish line long enough to go from the box to our house. So he couldn't run it himself. He said usually that's done beforehand. What I learned, though, when going back out to the side of the house where the cable company has their stuff, we have some conduit coming out of the ground, and somebody had been here, and it looked like they did try to run fiber, but they broke the conduit, and the conduit that previously had been coming up under the ground now is loose, and our coax is still running through it, but we have a nice elbow that's broken off. I'm not sure if they dug down deep to determine where the break was. The break is pretty superficial and 2 or 3 inches below the ground, so not like super difficult to fix, but maybe it's their protocol to have to like fuse those. I don't know. So here's our function that's doing our black to gray transition. What I thought might be something straightforward to do is possibly just mute one of the colors. No, the streaming problems started before the broken conduit. I certainly don't think it helps. I might have been cut off when this was happening, but I mentioned, so we currently have cable internet, and I bought a new cable modem just in case it was our cable modem, and went to activate it last night, and can't do it through the self-serve tools. Called to get it activated. The tech tried to activate it. He couldn't get it activated either. And then when he got whatever their internal support message is, it said that I need to call sales to get my cable modem activated. And so when you have to call sales for technical support, that probably means they're trying to sell you something, and they're probably trying to sell me a migration to fiber. Which I'd like to do. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose blue. No, blue, that's kind of a gray. I'm going to choose green, I guess. I'm going to scale green up, and I'm going to scale everything else down. And that may break things because of how long this is supposed to take and other things that depend on this timing. So I can't get a new cable modem, and I can't get fiber. So I'm just in ISP purgatory. I did try calling before the stream as well. Okay, so before 32, before value 32, it ramps up a little more slowly. I'm going to keep these actually still small, except for green. And we might end up overflowing green, but that's okay. I don't think so. All right, so I don't know if this is going to work. My plan is to build a disk, and then in DuckStation, I'm going to swap to the disk that I have, this new disk. I'm going to leave the room before activating the switch to get the overlay for the long library. I think it's the long library that I'd go through to load. Come back, and outer wall should load again, but this time with this custom version. And that custom version should, I think, change how this text is rendered. So in build, I should have a queue. I've been in a queue. And it looks like I do. So this will take a little bit of time to copy over. All right, so those are going. That's actually faster than I expected. And so let me do this. So this won't be so first I'm going to change what should I do? Plug in the controller, that's what I should do. I'm going to remove my breakpoints. All right, so where's the controller not? Let me switch my controller. Oh, come on. Mapping. STL4. Let's go. Okay, there we go. Controller mapped. So I have a save state. So one of the things that I found along the way, and it was going to make me sick. I think it was right before. Yeah, that's a good one. I have a solar flare network card in my file server, and it turned out that the solar flare card was overheating, and I'm not sure if it was like a voltage issue or what exactly, but it was basically crashing. The whole computer would just freeze after about 10 minutes of the computer being on. And I discovered this yesterday, and I thought, oh, a network card that's gone bad, and I'm having network issues. What if this is not an ISP issue, but my NIC was just flooding my home network with garbage, and it'd overheat, do some things, maybe get too hot, shut itself down, cool down, and then do the things again. Then I realized that at some point in all of this process, I had disconnected our router from everything, and we were just running off wireless for everything, and that file server wouldn't have been connected because it's just hardwired. Did the ferrite cores help Dig Down Deep? So Dig Down Deep is saying he has DSL. I can't even imagine DSL. Is DSL a modern DSL? Is that comparable to like hundreds of megabits connection? So his DSL, a light switch causing interference. it actually might be the light bulb and not the switch. So modern LED bulbs have so they need to convert the 60 hertz power to DC, and a lot of them just do that cheaply, and they can emit a lot of noise in the process. Oh, 100 down 30. I mean, that's reasonable. I didn't realize DSL was in that state. We have solar panels, and one of our inverters on our solar panel emits a ton of noise to the point where we can't use the garage door opener. Yeah, I would check the light bulb if you can. Um, there, I don't know that there's necessarily a good choice. Um, we just buy cheap LED light bulbs from Costco or wherever. But I have heard of them causing a significant amount of noise. I've wanted to get a ham license as well, and everything I find about interference like that, people always say go see your local ham. Oh, okay. So I'm going to change the disc. We'll see how this goes. I want to make sure that I'm not. I don't think I'm paused. So I'm changing the disc to the one that I just created. And it looks like so because the state is saved, the current overlay will not have this change. And so I am going to have to leave and come back. I think I will. What's the best way to do this? I'll go up to Long Library. Come on. I should probably make this save state a little later. Oh, this is after. Shoot. I might have to go with the other save state. Is the okay? As long as the elevator is not activated, that's fine. No sound. I don't know if that's a quirk of changing discs or by sound I mean music. So the library is, or the elevator is indeed not activated. So let me leave. Yeah, so this save state is prior to activating the elevator. And so now I'm reloading this overlay. And I could actually, you could look at the offset in memory and see if this is correct. So this is at 801. It'd be 1C E98. I'm the D's, 1C, 1C E. or 1C0E. I'll get there. Okay, 1C0E 9.8 is where this function starts. So what I want to see is, and I probably won't see it. So possibly this 1 and 4 are indicators that this was correct. I don't want to see 2s. I'm pretty sure I got rid of all. No, I wouldn't have gotten rid of all the 2s. Some of them. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So what I want to see, my hope is that this text that shows up has a green appearance. I don't know if I'm convinced. Let me load. There was kind of a rainbowy shimmer as it flowed across. Let me reload this save state and see if that looks the same. I should have taken a screenshot. Oh, this is the wrong one. So I'm going to switch the disk back to the original disk. Actually, I'll do this one more time, and I'll grab a screenshot. Actually, this is probably a good place to grab a yeah, I'll get there again. What I'm going to do is make a save state just before I do that, and then I can go into long library. So I'll grab a save state here. And so this should be, because this was my save state before, this should be the original version. So even though I have the other, the modified disk in, I'm expecting this to be the vanilla implementation. No, it looked the same to me. So it's possibly not what I thought it was doing. So let me load that save state. Oh, this isn't long library. This is the warp room. The warp rooms should work the same. Looking at the debugger, however, these addresses aren't changing. Let me go down to long library and see if that makes any difference. I don't think it will. I guess these values wouldn't change, though, in memory because the warp rooms are so small. Yeah, there we go. Now we see the values change. And they should come back. to what they were before. The reason they don't change when going into the warp room is because the warp room overlay is much smaller. So it doesn't overwrite that area of memory. It only overwrites as much as it needs to. And it's possible as well. I'd have to go through and yeah, I don't see a significant difference there. Oh well. Let's try it one more time. What time is it? No, I don't have time today. So that didn't work, but we'll figure something out. I'm not sure what the best method might be, and so I'll have to give myself some additional thing. So let me sign off. Sorry to everyone who is putting up with the terrible streaming. We've been decompiling Castlevania Symphony at night, though. You can go to soten.z.dev and learn more, find links to GitHub and Discord, and join us in our process of decompiling. I'm just a contributor to the project. Didn't start it, came in very late, but I'm helping, learning, and I'm hopefully educating people along the way. That's all I have for you today. Adios.